I just confused myself really hard. Okay.
All right. So
We are now going to be ranking. This is in terms of usefulness.
yep.
We have 2 rankings. The usefulness ranking, and then as a result of, I believe, a random question of would you smash this character, there was a cuntiness ranking.
Well, wait. Cuntiness is not smashability.
Yes.
It's if they are cunty.
I think he was deprived of that question, was it not?
No.
No, it was something of your idea.
It
came from your mind.
It's because we were playing Shadow Dragon, and there's a few characters in that game, obviously. Very cunty.
You'll see them.
And as soon as they showed up, I was like, whoa. They're pretty freaking cunty.
So she
So then I
proposed the
decided,
cuntiness list.
what if we made a cunty tier list?
So we will be doing both of those.
Eh. There we go. You accidentally typed in 8
When?
into your replacement unit.
Oopsies. Anyway, so yeah, replacement units, we never use them, so they're just going in their own tier. I don't know much about them. I don't know how good they would be.
Other than the fact that we mistakenly tried to do the conversations that grant the replacement units bonuses, but they don't grant the regular children.
That was the hubris
any
of our
bonuses.
own cheating. So
It
I accept that.
It was not adequately explained, I will say.
No, it
We just assumed.
was
Oh,
old
this
translation,
is-
new translation.
Yeah, we were like,
There was a whole shtick about that.
yeah.
All right,
Okay.
so Selef can just go to S. I think. Don't even
Yeah.
need to question that.
Yep. Lana, I would say S or A, honestly. She was very useful.
Yeah.
We used her warp like crazy.
The question is though, anyone else could do that.
But
She
we
was-
did that with her.
She was the first healer.
She was a really good healer, I will say.
I think her main key point was that she was the very first healer that we got, and so she could heal the longest and was able to just do that.
She didn't.
So I
will
think like
say,
A or B, because I think
A.
I don't know, because she didn't really fight anything, and
Well,
she
had no fighting capability until we
exactly she couldn't really fight.
outclassed her.
She's a good healer, but anyone could really be a good healer. Most of our other healers could be a good healer if they had her staffs anyway. See my point? US.
Yeah.
Um,
Also,
Larse, incredible. Just the skill combo was crazy.
yeah.
Just by coincidence, gaining
Yeah.
Ash or depth as
Lex
well.
Ira.
Yeah, Lex
Yeah.
Ira was apparently a great couple.
Yeah.
Although Lex Anyone is a great couple because
But
he
with-
passes on the Paragon skill.
With Ira, especially. I mean, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Just crazy.
Yeah, just passing Paragon is just an insane skill. Doesn't matter what game it is. You're gonna see it several more times if you play Fire Emblem, and every single time you're going to love it. It is an incredible skill.
Ulster.
Bolster, probably an A, honestly. He
I
could have
think-
been really good, but we didn't really use him.
Well, I think part of that was because Larsai inherited all of like
Ira's weapons.
the good weapons. Yeah.
Yes. She
So-
automatically inherited the Brave Sword.
The
And
Brave Sword. We
a
gave her
Silver
a Silver
Sword.
Sword.
Whereas Ulster, I want to say Lex for some reason. Ulster had Lex as a father,
He
and you
had-
get the weapons from your parent, but only weapons you can use. So all of the axes from Lex were not passed down to him, and he had no swords because they were put on sword units.
So he only had the Iron Blade.
He had the base iron blade that he comes with,
We
and he didn't
gave
get into the
him-
sword for a very long time.
Yeah.
Because we just never bothered to, since he could fight fairly well with that sword. And because of that, it was generally, like, Ira was just closer, because she would go fight a new unit.
Larsai.
Larsai, my bad. Larsai was just closer, so she could fight a, like, full health unit, so she was typically just more in the fray.
Yeah.
And that just ended up how that going. Whoa.
How'd that going?
Okay, Oifi.
Oifi?
Oifi was not great. Oifi is a good,
He was good early.
he was a good, they call it Jagan archetype,
Yeah.
where it's just somebody who helps you out, since Jagan was the first of his kind.
B?
I think B.
Yeah.
I think if we kept up with him and kept him getting level ups constantly, like, he leveled up quite a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
But
Probably could have also given him some better weapons.
his weapons were honestly fairly adequate, I would say. He had a steel lance. I don't think he had a sword. That would have been the one nice
He had
thing.
the armor
He had the armor
slayer.
slayer, but even then,
And
that's
then
not a
maybe I
great
think a
sword.
steel sword.
Possibly. I think we did give him that.
Yeah.
But I do think that in the end, he was just not, like, much like Jagan. He just kind of falls off after a certain
yeah,
like
couldn't
amount of
keep
time.
it.
I want this Why is it doing this to me? There we go. Okay.
Lester?
Lester, probably also B.
Yeah.
He wasn't as useful as you may think for having a brave bow. He had a brave bow, but he couldn't make good use of it because his adept was not very prone to activating because he was always slow. He was never a super fast unit for us.
Killer bow did sometimes come in clutch.
Killer bow,
brave bow.
Killer bow was nice, yes, but it's also most of his fighting capability partially just came from luck, and his hit rates were always annoyingly shaky, especially towards the end game.
Yeah,
you were constantly working with low hit rates, and only being able to attack twice with a brave weapon is always just disappointing. Dermot, C. Yeah. I would give him D. I would say the only reason he's in C, or the biggest reason, was the end game use of charm.
Yeah. Because he was dookie.
He was not great.
He took after his father.
His father we also did not train.
Yeah.
A part of the... We figured out at some point that a part of the child system is that the level, or some of the strength that the parent has, gets passed on to the child through how high a level they are.
So Noish
was someone we didn't use. We didn't use Noish, we didn't use Alec, we didn't use Arden. So when Noish got married and had a child, his poor son did not get pretty much any of his stats because he didn't have many ones.
Yeah.
So Dermot was kind of screwed from the beginning.
A little bit shafted.
He was, yes. And his skills were not great. Charm was by far his best skill, and even then, he just...
Because he just had a cost.
Charm and a cost. He may have had crit, yes. Crit is nice, but it's a highly just unreliable skill overall.
Plus, I don't think he had...
He did not have much skill, no.
Yeah.
So it was not great. And a cost is fairly worthless. It's very useful in like kind of niche scenarios, I feel like. Because a cost is just a more dangerous adept.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's how that goes.
Julia,
I think either B or A. Because Julia was like a Lene, but with more fighting capability. I think probably A, because she could fight from the beginning.
She could nuke.
She was especially nice because she automatically started with a 20 might weapon.
Yeah.
Like an A rank tome. Which doesn't really happen normally. So she started with a good tome. She just got some pretty good level ups, I would say.
Yeah.
And she was just able to grow from there.
Had some good healing.
Yeah. Her biggest hindrance, as with all characters in this game, which I'm kind of trying to ignore, is movement.
Yeah.
In this game, the movement, if you are not in a horse, or on a horse, then you are not reaching it through about half of the chapter.
If you aren't up a horse's ass, you're not making it.
As you can see, on our last chapter, when we made the mistake of sending Shannon and Kuiper back, we spent so many turns returning them back to our position when the rest of our units weren't moving. And that entire time, we had our horseman there, who, yes, had 3 more move from the leg ring, but Seliph was able to run all the way to the next castle, destroy the castle, seize it, come all the way back, and talk to Julia before they even arrived. Lacey did forget for a few turns, so that didn't help, but...
I did not forget! I'm pretty sure I moved them.
Whatever. Fee.
Fee,
in the end, I would say was inferior in our case to her mother. We made much better use of her mother, Erin.
Yeah. Erin, yeah. Did you say B? I would say B for Fee.
That's the question. I think she's not at the level of Dermot. She was better than Dermot, but even then she wasn't great. She could do some good chip damage. She could fly in, fly out. She was pretty good there. But it wasn't great. You know, she could have been a lot better. I think we might have gone a bit unlucky with the level ups. I don't actually know, because this is the first time I've ever played this game.
I feel like there was like a chapter or two where she was coming in clutch.
Yeah. She was good at flying ahead of people and going across a mountaintop to go kill thieves, or like pirates.
Yeah.
That was really what we made most use of her, which kind of made us fail her, really. Wasn't great.
The clutch chapter was when she helped save Arthur from certain death.
Oh, yes, that is correct.
The Draco fucks.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Arthur...
She held her own.
Probably also B, maybe even A. Probably not A, probably just B.
Yeah. got a lot better once we...
He did. He got a lot better once we gave him a horse.
Got him a horse. Yeah.
As with all characters in this game, if you have a horse, you're just better than the rest. So, he got his horse. He also got Thoron, which is the second best tome of its type because of weight. So, every tome in that game, each level has the exact same might. The only difference is different weights, with it going from lightest to heaviest, wind, thunder, fire for the elements. I don't know how. I think light is the same as fire. It might be the same as thunder. I think it's the same as fire, also quite heavy. Might even be heavier if I remember correctly. I don't know about dark because we don't use dark tomes. So he was just able to do a lot of damage with that, and he was still able to double pretty confidently because it only weighed 7 instead of 12.
Yeah. So
he was really good at dealing with those one range melee units. He just wasn't great at first because he was just kind of ruined by the fact he wasn't on a horse.
Yeah, he was slow, lagging too far behind. We also it took us a long time to actually like use him until we did our boss spamming
exactly
to get him up to a really good fighting point.
We had a similar problem with his parents. We never used Azul because he just wasn't like in our repertoire. He used a fire tome, which is the worst kind because he was Arvis's younger brother and had that holy blood.
And then
Tyleta we used a little bit because she came as a pre-promoted unit.
Yeah.
But even then, we didn't use her much, and we never make use of the Wrath skill because we didn't understand how it worked.
Yeah.
So if we made use of the Wrath skill, we probably could have gotten them up a bit earlier, a bit more naturally, and he probably would have been better. But all in all, for us, B. So Johann was good. I think B still.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have most of them in B, honestly.
Yeah.
But Johann, I think in B, because honestly, he was pretty good, but even then, he wasn't great.
Bravax was really the only thing carrying him.
Bravax was the main carry, which wasn't the case with Lester.
Yeah.
Which is also an Axe Knight of the same class, with the same, like, very similar weapons.
Lester?
Lex. My bad. I meant to say Lex.
Yeah. He had some decent
He had
stats.
times where he was doing pretty good. His stats were okay, but Axe's way so incredibly bad that his low speed was already kind of hindered.
Yeah, it kind of made
his speed was not great, and then it was just worsened. He didn't have Holy Blood, or at least not a great one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So he never got any bonus from a regalia, from a holy weapon. So, in the end, he was just like, he was good, but not great. Johalvier was the option we did not recruit. In that chapter, you have the choice to recruit either Johann or Javier, and the other you have to kill. We recruited the horse axeman for obvious reasons, and because of that we never used him. So I imagine that he would likely be in C rank because he doesn't get a horse. I believe when he promotes into a warrior, which is an unhorsed unit.
Oh, he was an axeman?
He was an axeman.
It's been a while. But he was just not...
He was a footman axeman. He did not use a horse. And I believe I briefly looked it up at some point, he will never use a horse.
Yeah.
So I imagine his stats would be better, but he would be overall inferior. So I'll just put him at C. Despite never using him, so take that with a grain of salt. We did not use him. We don't know what he was actually like. We don't even know anything about his stats or his growths. I don't remember what his stats were when he died.
Nope.
So I imagine he would be worse than a horseman of the same class or same type, but I cannot say. Shannon, I think it's an automatic S just for having the Balmung. That's kind of the way this game works. If you have a holy weapon, then you're just automatically, once again, better than the rest. Mm-hmm. Because those give you so many bonuses. They're so good. They're expensive to repair, but it's just so incredibly worth it.
Yep.
So I think Shannon does get S. He was very immoral when he loved his cousin, but we accepted that.
That was kind of our fault, honestly.
Partially, yes.
I did have the thought. I think Gen 1, obviously, you kind of
Gen 1,
the relationships themselves. I think I did do like a brief look through because I was kind of curious. And there are... What's that look?
I hit my shit on your chair.
Yeah. I thought you were like disappointed in me that I looked something up and I spoiled whatever. Anyways, but yeah, basically there are units that have a starting like
love value, yes,
head start with certain units. So it's like they
built it up. You can tell also by the way they like made the art and the way that there are certain Hindon combos, like with Ira and Lex on I believe chapter 2 or 3. If they are not married, they will converse with each other and gain a lot of support to marry them. So you can kind of tell that they did have a somewhat like a vague intended marriage path, and you can see that in the art. Ira and Lex, you can clearly see that like those are Ira's children, and you know they kind of have like Lex similarities, especially with Ulster's case. I feel like Ulster has a very similar like portrait to Lex's.
But I think with Gen 2, I mean, it kind of feels like some of the pairings are pre-decided.
Yes.
And
no,
so
maybe I don't know.
Because I feel like Seliph and Lana.
Seliph and Lana is heavily implied, I imagine.
And yes. I feel like Leif and Nana.
Yes. But
I think some of the others.
Some of the others, they're definitely like hint, imply.
Yeah.
But I think with Shannon and Lyra's case, whoa, that's not right. Shannon and Larce's case, I think that conversation that they had with the training, it boosted their shut up.
It busted their nuts.
It boosted their support higher because every combo in this game does.
Yeah.
If they can marry, then it boosts their love for each other. So I think that paired with, I imagine there were times where they were just at the front lines next to each other because they were two of our better units.
Yeah.
So that was how it ended up going down.
Patty.
So, with Patty is an interesting case. Patty we could have made better use of her.
Yeah.
We could have used her to steal more money and given more money to other people.
And she had the sleep edge.
Which I feel like we underutilized deeply, yes.
Yeah.
We didn't use her to the point where she just got overclassed by enemies, and therefore we didn't use her even more.
Yeah.
It was like just a situation where everybody else just grew when she didn't, and so she never caught up because we never used her.
We spammed.
Even after spamming with a thief and a rogue class, they're never going to do much damage. They're never going to be able to hurt. Their whole point is to get the money.
Take money, and then she also had the ability to put them to sleep. If her hit chances were good. Which sometimes we also
I'm not going to
with.
use their weapons unless it's a holy weapon. Because you can sell and give the weapon to someone else, and someone else can make better use of it.
True. We probably could have done that.
We could have. I'm sure we briefly had the thought, but we didn't ever do that. Probably would have been smarter to do that.
Yeah. Because I think our thought process was, if we bunk them with the sleep, then we can steal their money and then put them to sleep so that she doesn't take retaliation.
Yes, but that is not how that works. They sleep after the turn unless it's in the arena. In the arena, when sleep is applied, it is immediately applied. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, it is once the battle ends. So she, even with the sleep staff, if she attacks someone, she would just get one shot
sleep
back.
Edge. Not staff. I probably C tier.
I would say C as well, yes.
Yeah.
I think if you got either lucky with her stats, which we may or may not, I don't actually know.
Or if you maybe gave her...
Or if you actually trained her as you went along.
Trained her, gave her better weapons.
Possibly, yes.
If she could handle them. I don't know.
The thief skill to get money is very crucial to that game. Because there are so many instances where... I think there were like 1 or 2 times where there wasn't money, and so we had to use her to give it to it.
Yeah.
And I will say, with the second gen, I feel like it's a lot less pressing. Because the second generation, you have the money passed down from your parents.
Yeah.
Because you have the equation, the second gen kids, if they have 2 parents, like if they were a product of marriage instead of a replacement unit, or like Johan or Javier, where they don't have actual parents that you play as, they get $10,000, and then it was both parents' money combined divided by the 10 or something like that. Hmm. So they can get money. They get money from their parents.
Yeah.
And they can get like, I think it's like 10,000 or something like that if they both had 50,000. Hmm. So yeah, you can get $20,000 as a starting input if you max out the like parents' money. So I don't think money was as pressing in that case. But I think that is still a very valuable skill and very useful. Leaf, I would put an S. But my only problem with him is that he starts very low level.
Yeah, you had to train him up hardcore.
Yes, you had to train him very well.
No holy weapon.
No holy weapon.
So it's kind of tough.
He doesn't need one, I will say. Much like Lorsai, he could fight very well.
Once you get him to fucking Great Knight, Master Knight. That's right, the Master Nut.
Once you get into the Master Knight, he was very strong, very skilled.
He can go fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And he had really good stats.
It was Pursuit and Adept, yes.
Yeah.
I believe he had both combined, which is a very good combination, because if you can double them, you're already faster to use Adept anyway. So you can just triple up or even quadruple up, as we saw in that final battle.
Yeah, and then the versatility.
Absolutely.
Is just insane.
Being able to use every weapon at A rank, I believe it was, is just like incomprehensible in most Fire Emblem games.
And staves as well.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's fucking crazy.
Being able to, I mean, I will say the staves was just a novelty. It wasn't very useful. You would much rather use them to fight. We had many other healers that you would have used. The saves, I feel like it's more just like a funny situation. Could be useful in a pinch, absolutely. So that is still a positive. It is not just like a flat negative. Still definitely a good thing, but not as good as obviously having it on some other unit. You know, I'd rather have Fee with staves.
Fair.
Nana.
I think A.
With Nana, you can use her to fight right away. And that is nice. And she is kind of geared towards a fighting healing unit.
Yeah.
Like she's geared towards like 2 in fighting, 1 in healing instead of the other way around or like hitting even.
But I think I would put her at A, even though she's geared towards fighting. She really struggled with hit rate, which was really annoying.
Yes.
But I will say, as I think our only...
a mounted healer.
Other than...
You're correct.
As a mounted healer. Fucking good.
Yeah,
it's what we live.
I do agree about that. Mounted healer. I forgot about that part for some reason.
I was like, bruh, you're kind of overlooking the key point here. She could be a fighting unit, and
she could work fairly well. The Earth Sword is a very good sword, as we saw from those 3 bastard Pegasus Knights.
Yeah, we could have used it more for sure.
We could have used it more. We could have made better use. As with many of the characters in this, we could have used them so much better. We mostly in Gen 2 and kind of Gen 1, we picked like 7 units that we just stuck with the entire time and didn't really use anyone else.
Much.
Like if we had the option, or if we didn't, like if we were going to take damage, we were like, oh, I don't want to take damage, and so we just revert to using someone else.
Yeah.
So that kind of, it really shafted most other people and most possibilities.
Well, and in Gen 1, we did not take the time to try and train up
many units.
A bunch of units. Some of them just really got left behind in the dust, and we just said,
Noish, Alec, those were 2 of them. 2 good examples.
Arden,
yes. Arden, we purposely ignored.
Tylta.
Azel, we also ignored. Tylta, we tried to use somewhat.
Yeah.
But
there was only,
there were a select few, and it was mostly horsemen that we actually just properly used.
Yeah.
I think the only non-horseman that we purposely used was Yamke.
And I don't even
know why we did that. Racasis, we did get promotion, but I think it was partially just from healing.
But it was not until the very end. And I think I looked it up, and she also becomes a Great Knight. Master Knight. Which I completely forgot. Because I think it wasn't until the final chapter that we finally got her to promotion. And then we were like, whoa, this is crazy. And then they all fucking died.
Yes.
And we were like, oh, shit.
Oh yeah, I do have our actual reaction to that moment as well, if you guys want it. I forgot about that.
It's pretty funny.
It is. I might post it at the end.
Okay.
Ended off on a sad note.
Yeah. Alright. Moving on. Fiend.
A, if not S. I think A, though.
We
need to strictly talk about Gen 2 in this scenario.
Gen 1, kind of used him?
Gen 1, we used him, but then he left.
He left, that's right.
I believe, 2 or 3 chapters before the final, Quan Del Dingle, Quan, Ethlyn, and Finn all leave back to their home country.
Yeah.
And they don't come back.
Yep.
So you lose Finn after a while, and that's why he was level 17. If he stayed with us the entire time, he would have most definitely been promoted by that point.
That Brave Lance that he had. I don't remember. Absolutely. Did he start with it, or did we give it to him?
I believe he got it via conversation. I believe he had to talk with Quan or something like that. That gave it to him.
Yeah, he got it, and boy, did he fucking use it well.
It was the exact same as with Lex. I don't know. I said Lech. With Lex and Johann, Lester, all of those people. I think Janke as well. Once they got that Brave weapon, it was pretty much their exclusively used weapon, and we never really used anything else. Because why would you? Like, he has...
Why hit once when you hit twice?
Or even 4 times in his case.
Time. Yeah.
Because he had Pursuit. He always had Pursuit. So, even if... I don't even think he had any of the skills, if I remember correctly. He may have had Adept, but I don't think so. So, even though he only had Pursuit, much like Sigurd... he just had a good weapon and a good capability to just go with it and didn't matter.
Yeah. When we first get him back in Gen 2, he's the one doing all of the fighting. Because
absolutely.
Leaf is a tiny child that can't
I think Leaf,
squat.
He was either level 1 or level 5, which was just insanely low.
Was like level 1.
Yes.
I think he legit was at the very base.
He had single number stats.
Yeah.
There were no double-digit stats.
It was pretty dookie.
And so he needed to be carried because even even he got really injured. Yeah. Even Finn was really injured and had to get healing from Nana in that chapter when they joined.
Yeah.
So, incredibly useful. I think, so we're talking about with the Brave Lance. I think if you take the Brave Lance off of him, he's not as good.
Some of his stats, I think, were a little lacking.
Yeah, that might have been just bad luck. That might have been just him. His defense was never great for us. His res was never great. So, I think if we took away his lance and you just look at him as a unit, he would be ranked lower. But that lance was pretty much exclusively his, because there was no contenders for it. There was no really reason to take it off of him, because there was no other good lance unit. The only one was Quan. And Quan already had pretty good stats and pretty good capabilities, so it was just like a situation of why would I take this off of him?
Could have taken it off him and given it to Noish.
No, Noish is a swordsman.
Oh, freak. You're right.
Noish and Alec were both swords.
Yeah, that's
I think Alec may have been able to use us low tier lances, but I don't believe so.
Yeah. Ares.
He gets an S. He's definitely, if you were to rank it at S plus S minus, he'd be S minus.
Yeah, on the lower end for sure.
He is definitely on the lower end of S. This is going to be in no particular order. We're just going to talk about them. But he starts immediately with that sword. He starts immediately with the Mistletoe.
No, if anybody could top me.
Yeah. Starts immediately with the sword, starts as a fairly good unit, and can, do really well. He can carry you throughout the entire chapter. He can probably soft carry you throughout the rest of it. You can't do a Seliph solo with him in the same scenario.
No.
Because Seliph, Sigurd, they can just beat their entire thing by themselves with the right resources perfectly fine. You can't do that with Vercasus, even though he has the same thing.
Ares.
Sure. Can't do that with Ares. I'm going to do that a lot. I'm talking a lot right now. So, with Ares, he can't do that the same way. And that's just how it is. Because the Mistletoe did not give great stats, honestly.
And it just granted crit, right?
Yes, it granted the crit skill.
Yeah.
Which is better than some, but honestly I think hinders them overall, because when they grant a skill, then they typically give worse stats.
Yeah, and the thing is, I felt like
much worse, because I don't think he ever really
used it. So
we did speed up, so it's incredibly hard to see.
That's true.
But most of the time, when you have a Regalia, you're already one-shotting, two-shotting the enemy. You have no need to crit, unless you're trying to purposely avoid a hit, which is kind of worthless. So I think that having that sword with crit, and therefore giving him less bonuses, and I think his bonuses are not in great stats.
Yeah.
I think that overall kind of hinders him as a Regalia wielding unit. And I think that it just really hurts him.
But still pretty good.
Still a fairly good unit. Still definitely, he still deserves an S rank.
Yeah.
It's just not as high as the rest. I think that he would be possibly even slightly below Ira if you count Horse above, but otherwise that's just how it is. Lene, automatic S. As a dancer, especially in this game, dancing for 4 units is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yes, in many games you only dance for the 1 unit of your choosing. In some you can dance for whatever you want, but being able to dance for 4 units and making them go again essentially means that in the best case scenario, especially in this game scenario, where you can use Kanto to move your horses again after killing someone, you can get your 4 best units to move again. You can get your 4 best horsemen to move again.
Or you can also use her to move your other slow units
further ahead.
Your ground units further ahead.
You can use her as a catch-up material and as healing. If you have really injured units, you can heal, dance for your healers, and heal again. So just being able to make units go again is a invaluable. What are you doing? Is an incredibly valuable. Like you just can't compare it. There's nothing to compare it to. It's just that good.
Mm-hmm. Even though she was squishy as fuck.
As with all dancers, her stats were fairly slow.
It's just in their nature.
Yeah, you never. If your dancer gets hit, then you've fucked up big time. Because that means you've left them open, and that's just a really bad mistake. Your dancer is in the back lines, letting everyone else get killed. You only, like in a risky move, let them get injured.
Alright, Tinny.
Tinny, you're right. Tilt's the mother.
Yeah. Tinny.
I think either B or C, honestly.
So
before we rank her, we'll talk about it for a second.
We kind of used her.
We used her after spam missing. It was the same scenario with Arthur, where she wasn't used much. Yeah. She started with a Thunder Tome, which is fairly good.
Eventually became another healer, which was kind of nice.
Yes. But I think, as with Arthur, she was just untouched until we actually got to promotion.
And then even after promotion, she
was mostly just a staff bot. She wasn't really a fighting unit anymore.
Yeah, she still suffered from less move. That was obviously
not on a horse. Absolutely a problem.
Still couldn't wield any really great tomes. I mean,
she could wield tomes, but we gave them to Arthur because he was on a horse, and I believe he even had better magic.
I think he
with the magic ring, which of course we're not counting those kind of things as importantly because you can just move them around anywhere.
Yeah.
But like even if we gave her the Thoron, which was the best tome she could wield due to her weapon ranking, we still wouldn't use her as much, especially as we would Arthur.
Yeah.
Because that Kanto, that horseman, that entire like area is so invaluable. Just so amazing, especially in this game.
I think I would probably slot her in C.
Yeah.
Feel kind of bad, but yeah.
I think so. As a healer, she is definitely good.
Yeah.
She was a very nice healer. We could have made better use if we gave her a mend, but there were only so many to go around, so she just ended up with a heal.
Yeah, but she did have
was very proper. Physic was very nice, but you could give the Physic to anyone else.
It's true.
I think just as a healing unit, she was good. She had good magic, so she could really make use of that when healing. Mm-hmm. And just as a fighting unit, she was a lot more depressing because she just couldn't reach.
Yeah.
She could never really get into the fray because the fray was always 2 turns ahead of her.
Mm. Alright, Faval.
Faval, I think, is going to be the first A ranking of a Regalia.
Yeah. I think, again,
I think he's, honestly, I don't even know if he would be, like, a great A. You know, like an A might be an A minus, not in the higher ranks of A.
I think he's
definitely
pretty good A. Having a good bow unit
is
really nice.
But the one thing about that is that with Lester, he had the Brave Bow, which can function fairly the same. Now, of course, he can't double. Mm. So, he's not going to be as great. But he didn't have a horse. That was Faval's biggest thing, I think, was that he just didn't have a horse. So he was always lagging behind, and he just never really got experience because of that.
Well, he also joined in later.
Yes, he did join in fairly late as a random unit in the middle of a battlefield. So once we picked him up, he had to stay back quite a bit because he was just an archer. He couldn't take close range fights.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was just going to say is that he had no one range capabilities. So even though like Shannon was only a one range unit, that still I feel like is more...
It's more valuable. Absolutely.
More valuable to have on like front lines than a unit that can only shoot at 2 range and does not have the fortitude to take a bunch of hits to the fucking face.
If we leveled him up and properly promoted him, he would have been a lot better I think he ended up like level 15 max. I don't even remember correctly.
No, we promoted him.
Did we?
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, we did. You are correct.
He was like level 23 in the end. Still on the lower end of
definitely on the
all
lower
of our
end.
Units.
But there's kind of a thing with archers where they're just known as inherently bad characters. Because they can kill one person during your phase, and only other archers, and possibly mages if you put them at the edge of their range, during enemy phase. Whereas all of your other characters, they can fight any which one ranged unit, sometimes even one 2 ranged unit with the right weapon, as they wish.
I will say archers, yeah, especially like when it comes to Faval, his main use was to just snipe out anyone that we needed to. But that's if we had him close enough to the front lines that he would be able to do it, and if he would be able to do it safely without being piled on by a bunch of other units. So even though the UFL was very nice, and I think it had really good bonuses.
The UFL gave 10 strength, which is very nice.
Yeah.
I don't think it gave speed. I think it gave something else. It might have been skill.
Maybe. I feel like it had pretty good bonuses.
It gave renewal, which I think is honestly worse overall because it's on archers. Archers don't need healing because they don't take much damage. I would have much preferred if it didn't and just gave more stats. But honestly, overall, it's fine. Didn't really make much of a difference in the end. I don't think he ever really ended up using that other than when he leveled up and healed himself like that. But it's just, he would have been placed higher if he was a 1 ranged unit. That was the thing. That's the thing with every archer. If they could fight at 1 range, something that 3 houses did. 3 houses, archers suddenly become a really good character because they can fight just like every other unit, and they always can fight 1-2 range.
Or if, like in other Fire Emblem games, you have like a bow weapon that functions at 1 range, like a crossbow or something of the sort, you know?
Yes. Having a ability to fight at 1 range is just really like incredible for archers.
Even like giving them a low level rank and just another weapon would have helped out immensely. Like I think for both Lester and Faval.
Absolutely. I think the only reason Faval is higher than Lester is because of his regalia. It's because of his holy weapon. If he did not have it, then he would have been much worse than Lester. Even if we gave him the Brave Bow, just because he couldn't have Kanto, he couldn't have a horse, he was constantly behind. The typical problems with a mounted or infantry unit in this game. So I think that's why Faval's an A, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, Sed.
So
I think
Sed has been compared. I've seen it briefly. Sed has been compared to a late game Jagan, because, so obviously, we paired him with Claude because this is Aaron's child. It's Claude and Aaron's. So he had the Valkyrie. Many people love to pair Aaron with Lewin.
Yeah.
To give the Forseti to Sed.
Yeah.
Which would have been much better choice, especially than Kypra. Much better choice than Kypra to give Sed the Forseti, and he would have been incredibly buffed by it. It would have helped him out immensely. He was already a great unit. By giving him the Forseti, it would have made him all the much greater. If I were to replay this game, I would absolutely do that. I would put Lewin and Aaron together, and I would put Claude with the dancer, because giving Kypra the staff would work immediately. He could already have the star rank, and he would already be able to use it at base, and that wouldn't hurt him at all. So I think that would be a much better switching the 2 partners there.
Yeah.
So I think even...
That was my bad. I engineered the relationships pretty much for the most part.
Yes. She was the...
I just kind of like went with the flow.
I think they ended up marrying very quickly because they had a conversation with each other, and it was either you did with Aaron or you did it with Sylvia, and we chose Sylvia.
Yeah.
Which sadly ended up being the worst choice.
I mean, you could probably argue it either way. In the end, it did work out for us. That
was only because we spammed. If you don't spam with him, then that is incredibly difficult. Because he's not a horse. He's not on a horse. He cannot run with everyone else. He already has low move. I think it's just 5. So he would have been left behind quite often.
But I mean...
So I think just going back to
Sed only had 6.
Sed had 6, which is not great, even then.
Yeah.
But even without the Forseti, if we ignore that whole situation, Zed was still a incredibly good unit.
Yeah.
Like, he did not have good weapon ranks. He had both parents that didn't use tomes, so he did not have a good tome rank by any means. Mm-hmm. He had the light tome, and that was the best tome he could use.
Yeah.
Thanks to his father. Which
was very nice that he did start with that.
Yes, absolutely.
And
starting
the
with
Fortify.
Claude's light tome and the Fortify and the Valkyria. Those were all very nice. Those
especially because he shows up earlier than Kypra. So that was a very nice addition at the time. And the fact that he was a green unit, and so he had those infinite uses of that Fortify for the Draco Knights.
Yeah.
Very good. Very needed.
That's more of just like a funny little thing you can do. But even without the Forseti, even just as he was as a light unit, a light tome user, just typical, or if you had Azel do it to give him fire tomes, and just fire tomes, he was a great unit. He was doing really good for himself. He could do really, really good for himself. He ended up with incredible stats. So I think he would probably be a B, maybe even an A, honestly.
I could see putting him at A tier.
I think A, because he would be a definite S if you gave him the Forseti.
Yeah.
He had a few drawbacks, but most of those were just that he wasn't on a horse.
Yeah.
So.
Alright. Altina, baby girl.
So, with Altina...
A...
Altina, in our case, I think we underused her in the end.
Yeah.
We didn't end up promoting... Actually, we did. We did end up promoting her, but even then, we didn't level her up much past that.
And we honestly didn't use the Gaybolg.
No.
All too often.
We are hoard mindsetters when we play Fire Emblem games. We love to hoard all of our stuff, and then we just splurge it on the final chapter because we forget that we have it.
Conservation-oriented.
Yes. So, because of that, we kind of just, like... There were so many times where I'm like, we probably don't need to use the Regalia, so I just didn't.
Don't need the Gaybolg. But the Gaybolg, I will say, was like the one thing that she had really going for her.
The Gaybolg is honestly one of the more disappointing Regalias, especially when you compare it to its counterpart. I can't remember its name.
Gungnir.
There you go. The Gungnir. The Gungnir gave strength and speed, whereas the Gaybolg, I believe, gave strength and resistance.
Skill. She had the resistance ring on her, which she desperately needed, because she only had like 3 resistance.
She had 3 resistance naturally.
And she never grew.
The difference between speed and strength, or speed and skill, is incredible. Yeah. Having plus 10 speed is so much more valuable. And so I think that, like, for me, that was kind of like that's just annoying. Why would I, that's just really annoying to use now. But she could have been a lot better if we used her properly.
And, being a Draco Knight unit.
Simply just being a flyer is very valuable.
Being a flyer is very, very nice. And being a flyer with a holy relic.
With the Regalia,
is pretty fucking nice.
Absolutely.
So
I think if we trained her up better and we actually make a use of her,
she probably would have been S
She
tier.
would have been, S tier. I think in our case, though, she is an A.
Yeah. Kypra. Now, this man...
Kypra, in our case, was really good. Because of the Forseti.
We trained him up, and then he could Forseti ass blast. But he also had good staff usage as well.
Yes, he did. And I think that the biggest thing about Kypra is simply that he starts level 1 on the second to last chapter.
The worst thing?
That's what I said.
Yeah, I was like, best thing. I think he said something like about a positive aspect, and then you said he starts at level 1 at the second to last chapter, and also
no. So he starts at level 1, about like halfway through the second to last chapter, which is just horrid. It is incredibly bad as a priest, because you get a set amount of experience. You cannot get experience for a kill. You always get, I believe, 13 for a heal and 20 for a mend, or not 15 for a heal, 20 for a mend. So he is just stuck with that. So it takes an incredibly, just a lot of uses and a lot of money to get him to level 20 to promote and actually be able to use it as a fighting unit.
Yeah.
So he is just, like, bad because of that. He just can't function nearly as well because of just that fact.
Yeah, he definitely...
He would have been a lot better if we had just had Claude as his father.
He probably would
as
function...
just a pure staff user, that he would have functioned better.
Mm-hmm.
But because we had the Forseti on him, it kind of made us want to use him, and that kind of is what sparked up the whole spam training that we did.
And then once he was able to use the Forseti, obviously, it's really fucking good.
Yes, the Forseti is an incredibly good tome, and is obviously just, like, it's the best tome.
So would you put him in B tier?
So I think
would you put him in A?
If you're
he
looking,
was really useful.
If you're looking objectively, that he without a parent in the situation, just objectively, any one of the parents, C, maybe even D, because he was just a staff user, and even then he was not a great staff user because he started level 1, so he wasn't going to heal very much.
Yeah, starts at the bottom of the barrel.
And you're not going to just unless you're purposely doing a ranked run, or if you just want to get him promoted, you're not going to do that in your average playthrough.
But I think
getting him to level 20 is
he
just
did have
difficult.
real good growths, I feel.
I think that was also due to his Holy Blood, because he had major Holy Blood.
That is true.
And another minor Holy Blood, I believe, from Aaron. No, Aaron did not have Holy Blood, my bad. He had a major Holy Blood from his father that buffed his magic.
Boofed.
I don't know why people say that. It buffed his magic growth by quite a bit, which helped him out quite a bit. So I think, honestly, if there were to be someone in a D rank, it would be him. I think he'll go in C for now, though. For now, I'm not going to change it. He'll go in C.
Hannibal the Cannibal.
Hannibal is an interesting
Lecter.
case. Hannibal, he had the makings of a really good character.
God, I was so excited to have a Baron.
Pavise.
For Pavise.
He wasn't even a Baron, though. He was a general.
That's true. A general, but
he
with
cannot
Pavise.
use magic, yes. Having a unit with Pavise just seemed so valuable. But honestly, he didn't activate it very much.
And
I don't even know the chances for it. I think it's skill % chance, which he did not have much of.
Is just insanely dookie.
I believe his movement was 5.
It was 5.
Which was worse than the average.
Yeah.
Even amongst the infantry units.
The lowest.
Yes.
So
he was not able to move much. His weapons were even subpar.
Yeah, and then he also joins again, like Kuiper, very late in the game.
Yes, he joins even later than Kuiper. He's the latest joined unit, which you can see. We had them ordered in recruitment order just for the sake of it.
But also,
I
kind
think
of a hassle to recruit him.
Absolutely.
Also, you have to fucking skirt around this man who's trying to kill himself because he can kill himself pretty easily.
Yes.
Because his defenses could be easily bypassed, and he just did not proc Pavise enough.
So he would have been fine in our case if we didn't have a silver sword with 50 uses and could crit.
That is true.
If it wasn't, that was the biggest reason why we were constantly killing him, because we could crit. If he didn't have that, then we would have been fine. But honestly, I feel like in our case, he just didn't use Pavise very much at all.
No.
Several resets were due to him just not Pavising, or because he was slower than we thought, which is not a good case.
And his weapons, again, also kind of just middle.
The silver lance was very nice, but the silver
bow
blade
also sometimes was useful.
Yeah, bow was nice, which we gave him at some point.
Yeah.
The I believe he had a javelin, right?
Maybe. Did we have any magic on him?
He cannot use magic. He was a general.
Cannot.
It was the
shame.
Regular weapons.
Although, to be honest, I don't think he would have been able to use magic very well.
No, he had horrible magic stats. If he was a Baron, he would have better magic stats to begin with, but he did not. So,
basically, I wished for him to be a Baron, and he wasn't.
He had a silver blade, which I think was much worse than a silver sword.
Yeah.
Because it weighs more and has much worse hit, and I would have rathered, even if he had to take the damage penalty, even if he couldn't do as much damage, for him to have that. Because he would have more speed, he would get weighed down less, and he would hit more often. Because his skill was fairly bad, if I remember correctly. He didn't have always the perfect hit that we were hoping that he would.
Yeah.
So we just ended up not using him much.
D tier?
Yes.
I think he's going to be our first D tier.
My bad, I missed. So I think he's sadly a D tier. I think that
he just
he could have been a lot better.
Could have been a lot better. Probably would have been more useful if he had appeared earlier on.
Absolutely. His recruitment was kind of... it's
it was stacked against him.
Yes, it was.
Same with Kuiper. And obviously, I think they're
kind of built so...
They're meant to be, investment units. You're going to have to be willing to take the time
because their stats were not always as good as the rest.
Get them up to par with the rest of your party.
Yeah.
And give them good weapons, good rankings, good experience, good levels.
Weapon uses, weapon
and then
kills.
Just hope that they can keep up.
Exactly.
Kypra managed to keep up.
Yes.
Hannibal did not.
No. Hannibal also was not a part of the Spamus training because he was already promoted, so we just kind of ignored him for the most part.
Yeah, that is another thing.
He just went to the arena.
He does come straight promoted, which you would expect him to be good, and then he's kind of just mid. He was not bad.
He would have been good as a defensive unit in his chapter. Once you get to the final chapter, and you could see in that final group of enemies, he couldn't survive them.
You have a bunch of bonkers people.
And at that point...
Too many magic units.
Exactly. At that point, you're fighting mostly magic units because you're fighting against the evil, dark mages.
Yeah.
Which is his weakest point. His weakest point is his resistance.
Can't do shit against that.
So he was just... He gets screwed over by when he's recruited for the most part. And his stats are not... His stats and his movement are just bad.
And his class at that late stage in the game is just not as useful as you would hope it would be.
Yeah.
It would be much more useful in the beginning, obviously. It's... General and Barons are... They're, pretty OP, kind of, on paper. They really seem, overpowered. And so, unfortunately, he wasn't enough of a Baron. He was a General. So he was missing some of that cool stuff. He had Provise, but just did not use it.
No.
And so overall, it was just not enough.
Yeah.
We already had really good defensive units with far much better move, better defense, better strength,
better move. Several of them even had Regalia that they could use to buff their strength, or just had something they could do to give them better avoid. I would say Larcey was a far better just wall than she was, or he was, because he could. Yeah. She could just dodge constantly.
He had
He had very little avoid. Constantly, because he was just getting weighed down, and he already did not have great speed.
He was just a brick.
He was a brick, but like a cinder block. You could destroy it fairly easily.
And it just takes fucking forever to move it places. Yeah. It's just dragging through the mud. Yep. Right. I think that is pretty good. Yeah. Again, we really just have those key units that
absolutely
we're really stuck through.
Honestly, if I had thought about it, I would have absolutely given Seliph his own tier because he just deserves it. He was such an incredible unit.
But I mean,
Seliph
that's
and
just
Sigurd.
That's just the nature of being the main character.
Not even that.
They're just
he's
crazy
better
buffed.
than main characters. Micaiah is not a great main character. Micaiah is pretty bad. Violet is another case of a pretty good main character, but he can get overshadowed, or I should say, they can get overshadowed. There are several other main characters that I'm trying to think of. Marth. Marth is not great, especially in the harder difficulties. You always use everyone else, and Marth just gets pushed by. So they're not always there. They're not always the best.
And I will say, you only get the tier thing from both of them in their final chapters.
Yet but they're still able to destroy everything.
They can wreck everybody's fucking pussies. It's crazy.
So you guys never saw it because we never recorded it. We decided to record halfway through the game, so that's when we started doing that. By the way, if you guys want to see us play Gen 1, we will reluctantly play it. This is probably the final game that I'm just takes the longest for me.
I don't really want to do it again.
If you want to see us play Gen 1, then I would be willing to. We'll see if you could convince her, but we'll see.
Might be a hard sell, I won't lie.
In a year's time, we'll probably be more willing, but right now, absolutely not. But just honestly, those two were just incredible.
Yeah.
And you just Seliph, he was started tier 1 level 3, 4, very low level, and he could just get up really quickly because his father was so good and passed down good stats, and his father passed down good weapons that he just naturally picked up, and the Paragon Band,
good skill rings, the Paragon Band,
which obviously you can take off of him, and those don't really matter as much. Even without that, he still would have been incredible.
Yep.
So I think overall, this is probably just the ranking.
Yeah. full tier unit to our experience with the game.
This is our personal ranking. This is not objective. We've only played this game one time.
And obviously there was a lot of mechanics that we really did not understand.
We could not comprehend many of these things.
I had no fucking clue what the marriage was going to do exactly.
We did not know how.
It wasn't until like after Gen 2
when we
showed up that we
looked some stuff up after that, because now we're like, okay, we've already seen this.
So then we were like, okay, so we passed down your skills. We passed down growths. We passed down minor and major holy blood, which can affect your growth rates. There's a lot of things that
you can look at logistically to make a good character.
Gen 2 especially.
Yes.
So this is just kind of the way that it went for us.